All right, let's get started. I'm going to call out all of our panelists to introduce themselves to everybody in the chat and all of the high school students who have joined us. I want you guys to give me your name, your school year, and your major for all of our high school students before we begin. So let's start with Vanessa.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Vanessa Garcia. I'm currently a senior at IUPUI, majoring in elementary education with a minor in Spanish and ENL license.
Great, thank you, Vanessa. Let's go on to Jessica.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Villegas. I'm from Valparaiso University and I'm a senior biochemistry major.
Cool. Daniela?
Hello, my name is Danielle Lopez. I'm a fifth-year student at Marian University. I'm a double major in mathematics and secondary education with a minor in Spanish.
Great. And those are our session 1 college students, right? Did I miss anybody? All right, okay. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. So we're going to start our series of questions, nothing too crazy. And again, students, if you have any that pop up while they're talking, please feel free to enter them in the chat and we will dictate the last 10 minutes to help answer those questions. Okay, let's start with, why did you choose the college you are attending and what is your favorite thing about that school? And I guess we'll start in backwards order. So Daniela, if you could go first.
The reason why I chose Marian was because I really fell in love with the campus. It's a beautiful campus. Also, how friendly and welcoming and coachable the staff members are. Since I stepped a foot on campus, I was never alone. I always had someone either telling me where I needed to be or like if I didn't know what to do or who to talk to, I could just ask anyone and they'll be like, oh, you know, you just go this, do that. So that to me meant a lot because I'm a first generation college student. So I have no idea when I chose Marian, I had no idea what college was like or what I would be coming across. So definitely having a university that supports me academically, but also that coaches me, I think to me was the number one thing that I was looking for. And I definitely found that at Marian.
Jessica, what do you think?
So the reason I chose Valpo was it was very much more financially available to me. With the scholarships I received, it was very affordable for my family to pay, and it was also close to home where I can like leave and live on campus, but still, if I'm feeling homesick, can just drive 40 minutes back home. The science building where I would be obviously be at most of my 4 years was like top tier. It was very nice and brand new. So the facilities and everything just kind of really drew me in.
Great. No, that makes sense. Vanessa, what about you?
Yeah, so I chose IUPUI kind of for like that same reason. It's right by my house. It's a 40-minute drive. I honestly love it so much because of how diverse I think the campus is. I think I've been able to learn a lot more about different ethnicities and cultures and stuff, and that's something that's really important to me as an education major because there's so many students I'm gonna have like that. And as well as like it being right in the city, I think it gives me like a nice experience of being able to, you know, go about and do a lot in the city while I'm on campus. So it's like a wide variety. And I agree, it's also like very financially, it's like a good cost for me and my family. It's not as much as like living on campus, especially as a commuter student. So I think that's a big choice of why I chose IUPUI.
Okay. Yeah, and then since I have you here, Vanessa, why don't you go ahead and start our next question, which is, what was the hardest transition from high school to college? What was the biggest difference there? What were you maybe not prepared for?
I definitely think it's how independent you really are. especially like, you know, when you're in high school. I feel like teachers are always on you to like make sure you do this, make sure you complete that, turn this in. But I think like once you get to college, you're like very independent and it's all on you. Like, you know, make sure you like pay like your student bills, and make sure like if you want to join clubs, you have to be the one out there looking for these clubs to join. And it's just a lot of responsibility on yourself to make sure you're the one getting things done, and you're learning new time management skills to be able to, you know, have your social life, your school life, and your work life all together.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Jessica, what do you think? What was the hardest transition from high school to college?
Kind of going off what Vanessa said, for me specifically, it was having to say no to like organizations. In high school, I was in like every organization you can think of, plus like athletics. So when coming to like college life, it was a bit harder trying to balance like obviously harder course loads, but also manage like the homework that goes along with that, and trying to do all these like organizations. So really just devoting yourself to like 2 or 3 where you can hold leadership positions. And then also for me in high school, all the information came easily, so I didn't really study. But like that obviously doesn't happen in college, where your courses are a lot harder. So just finding a good way to study and like those good friends to like study with.
Right. Okay, Daniela, what do you think?
I agree with both of the responses that were previously shared. I mean, college is such a beautiful experience. I think definitely for most people, it's kind of a hard start when you don't know what you're necessarily going to school for. For me, I think it was evident that I wanted to be a teacher, but it was also like, for me, what was challenging was handling the different schedules that we have, because we get placed into schools our freshman year. And then you have all these activities, and then, oh, you have a social life too, and now you're an adult. So there's so many things that need to get done and so little time. But definitely that's something that you learn to manage. But I guess it's kind of overwhelmingly something that's fun because you're doing what you love. So yeah.
Okay, and then Daniela, I do want to ask, what impact has your culture, being first gen Latinx, what does that mean to you, and how has that impacted, if at all, being in college?
Well, that has impacted greatly. I had no idea that going into the STEM field, how underrepresented my culture was, especially being a female. There's not a lot of females that choose to go into the STEM field, which is sad, but it kind of propelled me to look back at the students that, that were in the year before me, or other students that might need help, or I'm part of some mentor programs at Marian. And, it just makes me think about, the need that there is. And so if I see a student who shows interest in the STEM field, it helps me encourage them to pursue, that career choice because of the need that there is. So it has helped me, shaped me, definitely helps me walk with confidence, knowing that, what I'm doing is what I love, and it doesn't matter where I'm coming from, or, what I do know and don't know, it will happen because it's what I love to do. So, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. Jessica, what about you? What do you think? How has being Latina, has your culture impacted your college experience at all?
So kind of like Daniela said, in STEM, there's not a lot of people of color, especially female of color, and Valpo is a predominantly white institution, so even like the faculty, I don't see representation, so that was really hard for me. I kind of felt like I didn't really belong being in like the chemistry side of things. And it wasn't until I started doing research, and then I kind of realized like, oh, then maybe there's no one before me, but then at least like the future students at least have like one person that they can be like, oh yeah, like she's a first gen Hispanic student and she was able to do it, so like so can I. Kind of like Daniela said, also mentoring programs. My freshman year, I was in this program for It was specifically for first generation students, and that helped me a lot, kind of adjust to the college life. And my sophomore year, I was also a mentor for that, same with my junior year. So it was really nice to like kind of give back to first gen freshman students coming in and adjusting them to how like college is actually like.
Yeah, great. Vanessa, what do you think? How has being Latina, first gen, your culture, how has that impacted your college career so far?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what has been said so far. I think as an education major, there's a lot of female representation, but there's not a lot of colored female representation. And I think that's something that has really impacted why I decided my major and why I continue to do what I do. Because, you know, I want girls who look like me, who are younger than me, like see me and know, you know, I'm in college, I made it this far, I'm about to graduate. You guys can do that too. You know, you can push past that barrier and, you know, find a career that you love, as well as I'm part of the Latino Student Association on campus. And I think that definitely helped me find my place on campus and find my, you know, my group of friends and be able to like stand up and like for things that I like love and that I'm passionate about and try to like, you know, fight for equality and representation for all students of color on my campus.
Great. And I'm going to ask another question, but before I do that, I do want to say for our college students, if you could again re-say your name and what you're studying and what school you go to, now that we have quite a few people here. I want them to know who they're listening to. So a big question that high school students maybe don't even realize that is an important question. How much time do you spend outside of class working on homework? So what is class time versus actual study time, and how is that different? I know that earlier someone mentioned that you don't have people on top of you to get things done and you have to guide yourselves. What does that look like? And Vanessa, we can go ahead and start with you.
Okay, so I'm Vanessa. I go to IUPUI. I'm a senior studying elementary education. So what they always tell us at school is that you need to study, I think, 3 hours per credit hour that you take. I think as an education major now, my classes are all 3 hours long, but I know majority of normal classes are about like an hour and a half or so. I honestly spend about per class, I think like 2 hours at least. Not every day, but almost every other day, just because you don't have the same classes every day. So I think it's definitely just you managing your time and, you know, putting aside time for specific classes that, you know, might be harder for you or might take more time for you to finish. Because I know the workload is always different for every class. So it's definitely a lot of time management. But I definitely think for a week, I spend maybe like 6-8 hours on homework outside of class.
Great. Jessica, what about you? Could you introduce yourself and tell us how much time you spend outside of class time on schoolwork?
My name is Jessica Villegas. I am from Valparaiso University, and I'm a senior biochemistry major. So my freshman, sophomore, and junior year were very like course heavy. So I spent a lot of time doing homework. Like, not to like scare you guys, but like I would like pull all-nighters at least once a week doing homework. But I was also very busy in commuting, so that also like took time away from where I can be studying. So now senior year classes are a lot harder, but they're not having homework assigned a lot. It's a lot of exams, mostly making up my grade. So I typically just study like 2 to 3 hours every other day, kind of like Vanessa said.
Okay, great. Daniela, what about you? Could you introduce yourself and tell us how much time you spend on schoolwork?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Danielle Lopez. I'm a fifth-year student at Marian University. I am studying mathematics and secondary education with a minor in Spanish. I think it really depends on your course workload. I know for a full-time student, that might look a little bit different, like the time you spent on your homework, doing your homework. For me personally, because I am a math major, sometimes in the classroom, I would take a lot of classes that were 3 credit hours, 4 credit hours. So sometimes, you know, we would meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like all week, an hour, but sometimes it didn't make sense. So I would have to spend 2 hours on my own time, studying and reviewing and plus homework. So that's probably like 2-3 hours. But I would say, I guess, I don't know, between 15 to 20 hours, depending on how many classes you're taking. And for me, I would always take 18 credit hours, 17 credit hours, and do an internship on top of that. So, I mean, it just depends on how much you can handle. And also some of my assignments, I could get them done in 30 minutes. So it really all depends. And it's going to look a lot different for everyone. So.
Yeah, and then Daniela, while we have you here too, so this session is geared towards seniors who are about to get into college. So what advice do you have for these students who are completing high school, wrapping up their final semester and so some change and prepping for college? What do you wish somebody had told you?
Well, I mean, just enjoy those last days at high school. I mean, it's definitely something memorable. I'm still really good friends with some of my high school friends from like 5-6 years ago. So just enjoy those last moments that you have. Definitely stay on top of your email. Keep an eye out for any updates on your university, whether you're going to be living on campus or not. Start saving up money. College leaves you with no time, if you're a full-time student, most likely you will have no time. Start saving up for any expense that might come along the way. Food or Starbucks coffee is definitely something that you pick up when you're in college a lot. So yeah, just also mentally prepare, you're going into the next chapter of your life. That's something that makes sure that it's what you love to do, and that you're passionate about doing that. You look forward to it because it's not going to be a smooth ride, but definitely it will be worth it if it's what you love to do and can see yourself doing in the future.
Okay, great. Amazing advice. Jessica, what advice do you have?
My advice would be that it's okay to not know what you want to do. It's okay to change your major and to change like the path you want to be on. Coming to Valpo, I was pre-med and I was very set on taking the MCAT and going to med school. And then it wasn't until like after sophomore year, I realized that I didn't want medical school. It was something my parents had always wanted for me. And even though I love the idea of being a doctor and like saving people, I know that there's much more people capable than I was at that point and much more deserving. So I'm looking into graduate school, but I mean, I still like love chemistry and I still love like everything STEM. And I feel like just going into school and just kind of realizing like what you want to do and not what everyone else kind of like has planned for you.
Yeah, that's great advice. Vanessa, what about you before we get to the questions in the chat?
I definitely think it's don't be afraid to put yourself out there and do things on your own. I think when I first started at IUPUI, I found a group of friends and then I just stuck there and I didn't put myself out there to go learn what is on campus on my own. So I think it's definitely like, don't be afraid to like go to events or go to a call out meeting for a club on your own, that it's okay for you to do things on your own because you're able to learn so much more about your campus and learn more about like what's being offered. And, like I said, like I joined the Latino Student Association, but that wasn't until like towards my end of the sophomore year. But because I joined and because I put myself out there, I was able to find a wider group of friends and more friends, so definitely just put yourself out there and don't be afraid, to do things on your own. Because at the end of the day, you'll be able to find new friends who care about the same things you do.
Great. And then Vanessa, actually the first question we have is geared towards you. And please, everybody who is here, feel free to put some questions in the chat. Again, we have people from IUPUI, Marion, and Valparaiso, so ask any questions. Vanessa, how is the life on campus of IUPUI?
So life on campus, I commuted for 2 years and then I lived like off campus but right next to campus, so basically it was campus. I think it's very diverse. There's always something going on and something to do on campus. I think it's usually different from a non-commuter campus, just because I feel like a lot of students go to campus and then they leave, but I think that there's always something to do, whether it be a club hosting an event, the school in general having an event. There's always people everywhere, as well as the fact that it's literally in the middle of downtown, you know. I feel like that's like a huge thing for IUPUI because you're always able to go off of campus and do things with your friends. So I think it's definitely, it is a commuter campus. I think that's part of the, like, you know, deciding factor for a lot of people, but I think it's a great campus to be on. It's very welcoming, and it has lots of clubs and sports and things for you to do. So.
Okay. And then I guess, and please, guys, if you have any questions, enter them. Until then, I guess I'll just mimic those questions. Why don't, Jessica, why don't you tell us what life is like on campus at Valpo, too?
So Valpo is a private university, and it's very small and kind of in like the middle of nowhere, Indiana. But the campus itself, it's really great. The students are all very nice, as well as like the professors. There's always things going on. For being so small, we do have like fraternity and sorority life. So we're all like each our own little community within like the campus. A lot of student organizations also hold events like all week, and we just had our president inaugurated, so we had a full week of events, and like we have barbecues all the time, and just it's really like nice. It's a quiet place, so each one can like do their own thing, and we're still like close to Chicago, so we like a train ride away, or Indianapolis, we're only like an hour and a half, 2 hours away, so everything's not like relatively close, but it's still pretty fun.
Okay. Daniela, what about Marion? What's campus life like there?
Well, just like was shared previously, I mean, I feel like on a college campus, there's always things to do. We also are very welcoming to the community. I mean, Marion is probably 15 minutes from Indianapolis, farther west, but we're always inviting like the community to join on our campus. So it's not unusual to see someone visiting the campus, a group of high school students, some theater production going on, like, and having elementary kids come. Like, we're very involved within the community, anything we really can do to get people on campus. So it is a small campus, but it's very busy. That you'll always see people there that are not necessarily students, and I think that's great. And like was shared previously, students are so nice. The faculty there are awesome. I feel like if you go to any college campus and you get lost at some point, if you just ask around, somebody will surely direct you to where you need to go. So yeah, we love sports, football. You know, there's always a team that won or something. I'm not a sports person, but I know that we are heavily involved in sports. So yeah, you're always going to see people on campus.
Okay, and then we have just a few, like 5 minutes left. So again, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to enter them. But something I do want to ask that I think is important, what groups are you involved with on campus, if any, or what do you do on campus or outside of campus that keeps you involved and maybe you would recommend to students to think about when they enter college? Daniela, go ahead, you can start.
Well, I personally did a little bit of everything. I like to explore everything that our campus has to offer. At some point, I was a student ambassador for the president of the university. And then I did that for a year, and then I got involved with SOL a little bit, Student Organization of Latino Students. And then currently I am involved in our mentoring program for our new Latino initiative. I think that, well, and then off campus, I'm a private tutor. I do a lot of volunteer work, either translating at a high school or an elementary school for Parents in Touch Day. I am also do a couple volunteer work at my local church. So I personally think that keeping yourself busy and exploring all the opportunities that are out there for you is a great way to find out what you want to do necessarily. I found out that, I love to volunteer. I love to meet new people. And with that, you make connections. And, I've met so many elementary teachers, but also secondary education, math people. And had I not taken on, the opportunity to go and be part of this club or go volunteer, I probably would have never met these wonderful people that are out there. I do think that during your college life, it's a very crucial time, a stressful time, but I think it's also the perfect time to meet people and put yourself out there, because you're not really committed really to anything yet, but it's a perfect time to just a simple go and try, I don't know, tap dancing, I don't know, whatever you want to do. And if you fail at it, and if you don't do well at it, well, now you don't like to tap dance, and you'll never volunteer to do it. So I think it's a wonderful time to just go out there and try everything and find out what you love and what you're passionate about.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask this question that came from the chat, and either Jessica or Vanessa, if you feel comfortable answering, please go ahead and do so. With ADHD, how would it be like in college for this person? Or Daniela, yeah, if you go ahead.
So on Marion, I do know that we have something that's called student consultation services. So I am, English is not my first language. So I scored pretty low on the SAT for English. The math, I passed plussed it. But with that, my advisors recommended me to go talk to this department. With that, I talked to them about, English is not my first language. I arrived to this country not too long ago. I think that might be an issue when I take tests or exams. So with that, I got a letter from this department saying that I would be allowed 50% extra time on my test because of my ENL, English not being my first language. And because it was something that affected me and would not allow me to perform at the same level as my classmates. So if you do have a disability or some type of, need, the university will have some type of department that will be there to support you. So it's not something that should stop you from making that choice. Definitely, there's staff people on each campus that are there to support you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Daniela. Jessica, Vanessa, do you have anything to add to that?
I agree. I too have ADHD, so especially having to listen to straight chemistry talks for a long period of time kind of makes me go angsty, and I can't sit still, and I have to leave the room and walk. It's really nice that classes aren't your full, I think in high school my classes were an hour and a half each. My classes now are 50 minutes, so it's a lot easier to kind of sit through. But yeah, there are resources to help you. If you need to be in another room without distractions, they do make that adjustment for you. It's not the easiest thing, but it's very manageable. You're not going to be it's not going to be a setback for you.
Great. Okay, well, that is all the time we have today. I want to again thank our student panelists for being here today. You guys are awesome, and rock stars for helping out.
All right, welcome to the College Experience Student Panel Workshop. We have students from different colleges and universities who will share their experiences on various topics. So we'll go ahead and start with introductions. First we will start with Monica, if you want to give us a quick introduction, what you study and what school you're at.
Yeah, so my name is Monica Magallanes. I am a senior at Valparaiso University studying civil engineering.
All right, thank you, Monica. Next, we have Caitlin Ruiz.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Ruiz. I'm from University of Indianapolis, and it's my third year. I'm a nursing and a Spanish major.
Thank you, Caitlin. Next is Manuel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Manuel Alarcon-Nava. I use he, him, his pronouns. I am a junior at Butler University studying multilingual studies.
All right. I think Karina might have hopped in.
Yes. So my name is Karina, and I am a junior at Purdue University. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm studying human services.
All right, thank you. And last but not least, Isabel.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Isabel Lopez, and I am a senior at the School of Informatics and Computing at IUPUI.
All right, thank you, everyone. And we'll go ahead and hop into our questions, and we'll go through that order that I called you in to respond. So first question I have is, why did you choose the college that you are attending, and what is your favorite thing about your school? So first up will be Monica.
Yeah, so I chose Valparaiso because of the size. I had went to a somewhat bigger high school, and I learned that I don't necessarily do well with not having the individualized, focused attention. So Valpo having a class size of about 15 to 20 people has really helped me, especially as I am in my senior year now. My favorite thing about my classes is that I get to know my professors one-on-one.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll go to Caitlin.
So I chose UIndy for a lot of the same reasons that she did. It is extremely small. The class sizes are actually, I believe, 17 students to about one professor. So having that small college feel just kind of gives you a more personalized touch. You're able to know your professors, your advisors, and everybody much more intimately in a better way. And my favorite thing probably about like having those class sizes is you're able to make friends, and those friends will follow you throughout your college experience because you guys usually are in the same major. So you're able to just grow and have a better relationship with them.
Thank you. Next, Manuel.
Yeah, one of the biggest reasons I chose Butler is because of the major. Butler does a really good job to catering to everyone's interests. So whatever you might be interested in, there's definitely something for you there. And my favorite thing is definitely how easily communities are built around Butler's campus. It's absolutely amazing what people can do with what they're passionate about.
Great. We'll move on to Karina now.
So the reason that I chose Purdue was mostly because I really loved the campus atmosphere whenever I visited. I loved like the feeling of like all the campus life. I liked, seeing the students walking around and all of that stuff. And then I think my favorite part right now is just being able to meet so many different people from different backgrounds. The campus student body is like really diverse. I've met so many people from different countries, and I just think it's a really great time.
And next we'll move on to Isabel. Why did you choose the college you're attending, and what's the favorite thing about the school?
Yeah, so similar to Manuel, I chose IUPUI because of the major, but also because of so a couple things. Major, financial support, and then close to home. I think those are the big three things that were important to me. I love my major. It's informatics, so I can answer a little bit more about that later if anyone has questions. But I also, the financial support I didn't receive anywhere else, so that was a really good thing. And then the last part, being close to home. Family is really important to me, and I just really love being able to go on the weekends and just see my mom.
All right, thank you so much. All right, our next question I know is a popular question from high school students. Approximately how many hours outside of class do you normally spend on homework and studying? And we'll start with Monica.
I don't want to scare anyone because I'm an engineering major, so I have a lot more work than, someone who's not STEM, but probably like on a weekly basis, it's easily like 20, 25 hours doing homework and studying.
All right, next is Caitlin.
So I'm kind of in the same boat as her. As a nursing major, you study a lot. So I'm going to say probably I just had 2 exams last week, and I probably studied for about 10 hours for both of those exams. So it kind of does add up, but it's definitely worth it.
All right, thank you. Manuel?
So I'm a little bit different with my languages. But I think for schoolwork, definitely around 10 to 15 hours. But just to maintain a proficiency in the languages that I am speaking, I have to dedicate at least 2 hours every week for each language.
All right, Karina.
I would definitely say it depends on the classes and the major you're in. So I'm not a STEM major at a STEM school. So I am in human services, as I said. And for me, I definitely don't have to spend as many hours studying as a STEM major. So for me, I'm around 15 to 18 hours a week, but it really just depends on your learning style and just how kind of efficient your study strategies are.
All right, thank you. And Isabel.
I will definitely have to agree with Karina. It definitely depends on your major. For informatics majors, so me, I would say I spend about 10 to 15 hours, kind of like Miguel, but it depends on the week. So some weeks I'll have a heavier course load. It depends on the week. So some weeks I'll have a lab assignment due, so I'll have to spend extra time debugging and making sure my code is well right. And then other weeks I'll just have discussion boards that I need to do and quizzes that I need to take. So it just depends on the week, but also the major.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to our next question. So what has been the hardest part about transitioning from high school to college? And first off, we have Monica.
The hardest transition is like leaving everything that you've known. So high school, you've built up like your community, you recognize the people around you, you recognize the teachers that you have, and you have to come to college and basically start all over and look for that community again and start building and forming relationships that matter and that support you, because you need that support when you're in college.
All right, Caitlin.
For me, it was probably switching from being a lot of like dependent on like my parents to now being independent. So you now have to figure out like how to manage your own time, because now when you get to college, you think you can do a bunch of things, but you really have to make sure that you're focusing on school and why you're there. Also just like financial, trying to make the best decisions for you, because now you're really starting to get into adulthood and figuring yourself out.
All right, Manuel.
Yeah, I think for me, the transition from high school to college was really hard. I have DACA, so there's a lot of obstacles that I had to overcome just to get into college, but that I have to consistently overcome during college. That has made my experience a lot harder. But I would say just having a strong support system is something very important and something that I know that I wanted to find at Butler.
All right, thank you. And we'll move on to Karina.
I think that the hardest thing for me was just overcoming the feelings of loneliness, because my parents and like the rest of my family were all over an hour away. So, and as a freshman, you aren't allowed a car on campus. So just like coming to school with no like prior connections to anybody here at the school and trying to like navigate my way into building those relationships, it was a really lonely process at first.
All right, thank you. And Isabel.
The biggest transition for me was navigating what I really wanted to do, was navigating how to say no when it came to opportunities that were presented to me. I am coming out of high school. I wanted to get involved in everything, be a part of everything, because that's what I really wanted to do, and I wanted to know what else is out there. So I think the hardest part for me was stepping back and really saying, okay, it's okay to say no. It's okay to focus on school and just really remember what you're there for, and it's school. Yeah.
Great. So we'll move on to our next question, which is, what impact, if any, has your culture, either being a first generation Latinx student or DACA undocumented or Latino student in general, maybe somebody who doesn't speak much English at first or much Spanish at first, what impact has all that had on your college experience? And we'll start with Monica.
Yeah, so I was actually able to use my culture in a very influential way. I was on the founding executive board for my university's chapter of Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. We've actually been able to create a community within STEM at our college for Latinos and for specifically tailored to the struggles that we go through.
Excellent. Caitlin?
So I was also a student ambassador at UND. So I helped incoming students. I did tours, panels, and things like that. So when students see that you have the same culture, you speak the same language as them, it's definitely just more welcoming. And also when you have things like we have SOL, which is the student organization of Latinos at UND, you feel like you already have a community there because you have people who just have the same interest in a lot of the same things that you have as well.
Thank you. Manuel?
Yeah, I think I'm very vocal about my undocumented status, my documented status. And coming into Butler my first year seminar, which is a class required for all first year students, the first book we read was about an undocumented immigrant and their story. So I felt that I was always under the microscope because of something that was out of my control. But I also knew that it was important for me to continue to be vocal and outspoken about my experience because I want to make sure that other undocumented students know that it's a possibility for them to get to the point where I am, and I want that for them.
Great. We'll move on to Koreana now.
So definitely starting the college application process was difficult for me because I'm a first gen, so nobody in my family had ever kind of gone through that process before. So filing the FAFSA was a struggle. Just figuring out how to begin applications was a struggle, but my high school counselor was a really great help. And now I'm to the point that I'm able to be a mentor for students here. So I'm a mentor for the Avanzando through College program here at Purdue. It's the first year that it has been put on, and it's a really exciting opportunity to talk to students that were in the same position as me, and I get to kind of coach them through that process.
Great. And we'll move on to Isabel.
I think my culture has influenced me in many ways. My family is a big part of why I'm going to school and who I'm going to school for. I think they're my main motivator, and I think that drives everything I do. So a lot of what I've been involved in on campus has been doing outreach to Latino students, bringing Latino students into hopefully the tech field. So there was specifically a role created for me in my school. I'm the Latino Outreach Ambassador for my school, and it's been just really great being able to speak to families in Spanish, and just come and like being able to have the opportunity to be able to speak to families in Spanish where they may not get that somewhere else. So I think it's driven my culture's driven my opportunities on campus a lot.
Excellent. So we're coming up on our 10 minutes left mark. So the last question for this part is going to be, what is one piece of advice you wish you had when you were a senior in high school about college? And we'll start with Monica.
Mine would be get your study habits in order. Like in high school, I was really the student that would do homework like the hour before class or at lunch. And I remember freshman year of college, that was not flying. That's not gonna work for you. Don't recommend it. So especially in that summer that you have, really work on, or even like the second semester of your senior year, really work on and acknowledge like what works for you and take it with you when you come into your freshman year.
Thank you. Caitlin?
So I would probably say don't be afraid to like go solo on things. I feel like a lot of us were afraid to go to events by ourselves because we haven't made friends yet, but that's the best way to make friends. You really have to put yourself out there because if you don't, you're not going to make those relationships. So although it's scary sometimes to go to things by yourself, it's probably the best way to make friends in my opinion.
Great. Manuel?
For me, I would have liked for someone to tell me how fast it goes. I think you're constantly on the move. You're busy with schoolwork. That sometimes it's very hard to just take a breath and enjoy the moment. So really pay attention to your limits and your energy.
Thank you. Karina?
I would definitely say to read everything, just like everything in your application materials, everything on the FAFSA page, just every single little bit of information that you can get your hands on, just read everything, because there's a lot of valuable information that students overlook. And I think it's really easy to get confused on sorts of things like that that you can find the answer for. And I think it's a really valuable thing, is just having the information at your fingertips.
Thank you. And Isabel?
I think for me, it was coming to college, I wanted to do everything. So just remembering that it's okay to say no and it's okay to step back and focus on your school would probably be my advice.
All right. Thank you, everybody. That will conclude our prepared questions. I just, before we move on to that, want to say, how impressed I am at how thoughtful and interesting all of your responses to these questions have been. I think anybody attending this is a real benefit for them. Great insight, great information, great advice. So thank you to everybody. And now we'll move on to questions from the chat. This will do a different format. We'll leave it up to anybody who feels moved to answer a question rather than going just through the list for everybody to respond. So the first question we have: what are the most important things to look for when you're trying to find the right college for you?
I can go ahead with this one. Looking at, I remember I was so overwhelmed with how many things and how many colleges I could go to when I was first applying. But ultimately what it comes down to when choosing a college is which colleges meet your needs, whatever needs those are, whatever needs that may be personally for you. I think that's the most important thing that you should look for in a college.
Great.
Can I add on to that?
Sure.
I agree with you, Isabel, but I also want to present like a counterpoint is just because a college is meeting your financial need doesn't mean that you should forego the cultural or community support that you need. I know that is a really privileged statement because I had to take out a lot of loans, but like Valpo, for me, I really needed that culture as opposed to other schools that I would get like a full ride to almost off of scholarships, where I just knew that wasn't the right fit for me, because that your mental health matters too. So keeping that in mind.
All right, we'll move on to our next question in the chat. How do you connect with your family while at college?
I can answer this one. So as I said, I live an hour away from my family, so sometimes it's like really difficult to, align up our schedules and be able to get in contact with them. But FaceTime has become my best friend while I've been here. And, I do miss out on like some family events sometimes, but I really think that my education is worth it. And I feel like going back home during breaks and stuff, like that makes me like be more appreciative of my time with them while I'm home, and I get to like value my time with them just so much more when I'm with them.
All right, anybody else want to respond to this question?
I think it also depends on how far away you live from your family. So I live about 2 hours away from my hometown, and I definitely agree that like it is sometimes difficult because sometimes you have to prioritize either school or your family. If you have like a really busy week, a really busy weekend, and you have to study or do something, but there's something going on at home that you really want to attend, it does kind of begin to get hard. But just remember that, you know, your family knows that you're in college and that is something that's really important for you. And FaceTime is always a great option. But I think it definitely depends, especially if you live on campus or off campus as well.
All right, so next question from the chat. How do you deal with or prevent burnout?
I can kind of handle this one. Being a STEM major, I have a lot of work to do all the time. It feels like it's go, go, go all the time. But managing your time will really help you out 100% with burnout. So in college, they give you a syllabus of like all the upcoming dates of everything for the entire semester. So really paying attention to that, and then paying attention to like, okay, next week's going to be a super heavy week. Like, I'm going to make sure to, you know, really take care of myself this week, make sure I'm stocked up on groceries, like all those kinds of things that will lead you to having a better week when you know it's going to be harder, if that makes sense.
I would kind of like to add to that point that you shouldn't be afraid to reach out for help. I feel like people kind of get stuck in the mindset that they need to do everything by themselves, and that's just not the case. Being able to reach out to people that you've kind of built up your support system with, I think that's really valuable, and I think that it's important for like feelings of burnout, because I feel like being prepared is great, but also burnout just kind of comes in the moment sometimes, and you know, you feel like you've been stuck at school forever, and just, you know, talking to people that are also going through the same thing is really helpful.
All right, great. We'll move on. We have time for one more question from the chat. So this one asking about living at home versus living on campus. So if anybody has experience, you know, both living at home and living on campus, or if you have any insight on how to compare those two experiences and what's different about them, do you prefer one or the other?
So I actually live off campus. I've lived off campus for all 3 years that I've been in college. I do like having my own place. It is like beneficial in some ways, but I also think that I would have enjoyed living on campus at least my freshman year. That way you make, I think, a lot of the close relationships that you take on during the rest of your years at college. So if I could give any advice, I think I would say at least give it a try for your first year. And then if you want to move off campus, get an off-campus apartment or rent a place, then I think that would be a good way to go.
All right, we have time for one more response if anybody wants to get that in.
I do have experience living both on campus and at home. Actually, in my sophomore year, I decided to go fully online, so I was at home. And I would definitely say that there are a different set of challenges that come with living at home. I mean, you're surrounded by your family, that comes with more distractions. So if you're like me and get distracted really easily, maybe try and find a place that, you know, only you can have access to, or maybe like you can make sure that there's no distractions there. But also I would say that there is the piece of like, if you're not living on campus, maybe you're not making connections as much. It's definitely like kind of a give or take, but definitely also consider just like what fits for you like best financially. There is financial aid for housing, of course, but not everybody does get that opportunity. So just looking at like your own situation and just considering all the options is what I would recommend.
All right, thank you everybody. Once again, wonderful, excellent, insightful responses from everybody. This brings us to the end of our panel.